Welcome to our container security group meeting. I've got the first agenda item. I just wanted to welcome Karen Quintus to the team. She's going to be joining us with 50% of her time as a product management um, uh, intern or apprentice through our internship program here that we have. And she's going to be shadowing me. So she's invited to optionally join all of my meetings. And she's going to help with some of the work that I have going on. So just wanted to extend a warm welcome to Karen. And Alexander, would you vocalize Tiago since he's not present?
Yeah, Tiago is welcoming Adam Cohen, who's not present, to the team. He will be working with the back end. I believe he is on loan from the secure team. And so welcome, Adam. We are excited for you to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, welcome to both. It's exciting to have not one, but two people joining us this iteration, just helping out on the team. So we're excited to have both of you. So for the meat of today, I wanted to talk a little bit about the research spike on policy configuration inheritance, since that's raised, we've had a lot of comments here in the thread, and I felt like it might help to discuss it in this meeting. So just a minute, I'm going to share my screen here and we'll talk through it. So just to kind of set the stage, we've got this spike, how GitLab configuration inheritance works. And just to explain where we're at here, this is under the Epic for DAST project level scan execution policies. This is our MVC for releasing our initial pass at some scanner type policies. And you'll notice the actual requirements for this MVC are relatively minimal. We see that, one, we're going to be moving the policy section out. So we're moving it to a new place in the navigation instead of being here under security and compliance, threat monitoring, and in a tab for policies. We're planning to make that a top level nav item. So you just go to security and compliance policies. And the reason for that is with this change, it's now going to span more than just protect. It's not just, Cilium network policies anymore. We're broadening that reach to cover DAST policies as well. So it makes sense to level it up. Additionally, there's just some slight UI changes. There's going to be a new column called type that specifies either container runtime or scan execution policies. And then lastly, users will be able to view, create, edit, and delete scan execution type policies as described in this prototype. So if we come over to the prototype, there's a lot of stuff in this prototype that extends way beyond the scope of these requirements. What we're talking about here is limited to just the scan execution policies and just the DAST portion of that. So not worrying about any of the other scanners for the MVC. We're just worrying about DAST. And in this, there's a few options in here as well. We can narrow the scope even further for our first release just to these schedule type rules. So we don't even need to worry about governing, making sure that DAST runs when the pipeline is run. We certainly don't need to worry about when a commit is merged. For now, we can focus just on scheduling these to run at a regular interval. So the idea is you would come in here to the project, you would say, I want to schedule a branch, and you would pick which branch you want to scan, and you can pick either daily or weekly. If it's daily, you can pick what time, limited to the hour. Right now, you can't get any more specific than that. Or you can pick weekly, and you can pick a day of the week, and then you can pick a time. So, right now the functionality here, at least the UI wise, it's fairly basic. So here I want to scan the master branch weekly on Sunday at 5 a.m. And then I'm going to require DAST scans to run with, and then you pick a scan. So right now the DAST team is working to create a scan object that encapsulates both their scan profile and their site profile. You have to have both of those in order to run a DAST scan. And they're basically creating a saved configuration that combines both of those, that gives you all of the settings you need to run a DAST scan. So that will be configured elsewhere in the UI. We'll just read in that list and give an option of the ones that are already there. And so they can go ahead and pick with scan A or scan B, and then they can also create a new scan. We have a couple options for this that we've discussed in the design issue. If it's too difficult for the MVC, we can have this just open a new tab to the place in the UI where that's configured today. Obviously, that's suboptimal though, because you don't want the user to have to leave this experience, create a new scan, come back, refresh the page. That's a little bit disruptive. So ideally, this will open a modal here that just pops over and lets you create a new DAST profile right here on the fly, lets you save those changes. And this is not fully prototyped out. So to see what this looks like, we actually need to go reference the DAST team's mocks for this that Annabelle's been working on. But basically, you can create a new scan right here in line and pick that, or you can pick one that's already been pre-configured. Again, once you save this, if I just go back to the main policies page, you'll see there should be a new column here for either container runtime or scan execution, where a scan execution would be one of those DAST policies. So again, things that are not in scope for this MVC, we're not covering, we're not doing this at a group or workspace level. So we don't have to worry about inheritance or anything like that. We're not doing scan results policies, so we don't have to worry about failing the pipeline. All of these policies should just be additive. So, if you have 4 policies, then you would be running 4 scans. So we're not trying to, there's no conflict resolution required here because the action is just to run a scan. And so you don't have to deconflict that. You can always just run more scans. So there'll be, 1 scan for each policy that's run. And that's really the extent of this MVC. And I just wanted to make that a little bit clear because we are, we've got a lot of aspirations. We want this to cover all of the different scanners. We want to have, pipeline scans and push scans and scan results. We want to let you take various actions like allow and fail the pipeline, requiring approval, sending out emails or Slack notifications. All of that is aspirational and work that we'll do in the future, but not part of the MVC. However, we do want to at least think about all of that stuff just because as we go to start this work, we don't want to paint ourselves in a corner, so to speak, or, we want to make sure that the architecture can support the longer term vision. And so I think there may have been some confusion because also attached to this epic, we have another research spike that we did about 2 months ago, where I outline kind of the long-term requirements, not for the MVC, but for really the end state where, we need a 2-step approval process, full audit logging, we need to support basically, all of the different scanners, we need to have inheritance. So there's a lot to think about as we're designing this architecture, and that's important to get right. But as far as the actual MVC piece is fairly minimal. The last thing that I wanted to clarify here is just, I know there's been a lot of confusion about, how do we handle conflicts? How do we, if one policy says to fail the pipeline and another says to pass it, how do we handle that scenario? I think I've unsuccessfully attempted to communicate the answer to that question. Tiago did a great job summarizing that. And what he wrote is exactly the behavior that we want here. So just to read that real quick, a project will apply to as many policies as it inherited or as it is defined for. Scan execution policies will trigger as many scans as are found in their defined policies. And then scan results policies will all be evaluated. So we'll just evaluate all the policies. If any of those result in a pipeline fail, then the pipeline should fail. If all of those pass the pipeline, then the pipeline should continue to pass unmodified. So I hope that helps. If I'm more than happy to do another follow-on synchronous discussion if needed. I know there's not a lot of people on the call synchronously today, but I just wanted to take that opportunity to clarify some things that may have been a little bit difficult to decipher across all of those different epics and issues and direction page. So if there aren't any other questions on that, Alexander, I think you've got our last agenda item for today.
Yeah, I need to go back and actually re-watch the last meeting because we talked a lot about how we are for the alerts project, what and rolling it out, what does testing look like for it, and what we're doing with the feature flag. And none of that was sort of documented in the docs below. So I wanted to revisit that and just make sure we were all on the same page. I feel like that discussion we talked about a lot of things. I just wanted to clarify some of them. But as you mentioned, no one's on the call, and I think if I went back and re-watch that, I could come up with a summary beforehand, and then everybody could weigh in, make sure that we all understood the same thing. So that can wait until next meeting.
I just noticed that the link is not here in the agenda for the recording, so I'm going to add that in right now, just for ease.
Excellent. Thank you. That's great. Thank you. I didn't realize that either, so I was going to go look at it and be like, oh, it's not here, and then have to go dig for it. So thank you.
Just to answer your question as best as I remember, so, how are we managing that feature flag? And I could be wrong on this, so don't hold me to it, but I think our plan is, first it's going to be rolled out to staging. So the GitLab Kubernetes agent and the Kubernetes agent service is going to be turned on in staging soon. I don't know exactly when, but my best understanding of the timeline is like by the end of the month, roughly. So sometime around like January 31st, February 1st kind of thing. So once that's done, we can test in staging. When we're ready, what we'll want to do is leave the feature flag in place, but just turn it on by default, both for .com and self-managed at the same time. That way, we still, removing the feature flag is a little bit more of a process anyway. And if we have it on by default, then we can claim it as shipped. So that kind of checks the box, it moves it forward, but leaving it in place is a little bit of a safeguard for us because it makes it really easy to turn it back off if something, heaven forbid, goes horribly wrong. So we'll probably just want to turn it on by default and then have another discussion later about removing the feature flag entirely, after it's run for a little while and we're confident in removing that flag.
Got it. Okay. That sounds good to me. The only thing problem I see is if we turn it on for production before CAS gets to production, then we have the alerts tab on there, but no one can use it.
Yes.
So we can just
planning for that in the UI, right? Like we'll have that little alert banner that disables the button, so it'll be there. It'll be sort of like a teaser, right? Like,
oh yeah, yeah.
You can't use it yet, but it's you have to have CAS enabled. So I think we're okay there, as long as we have that front end issue in first that prevents them from using it until CAS is enabled.
Got it. Okay. And I think you, if that's the case, I think you created that issue under the follow-up epic, and it should be moved to the MVC epic then.
Yeah, it probably should be. That's a good point. So I will move that over.
Cool. And then and then testing it, we've covered that. Hopefully CAS gets in at the end of the month and we can test in staging. It'd be nice to test this in a self-managed and not rely on staging. I'm sure maybe there's and I've talked to Lindsay about that, and she's mentioned there's a team that she's bringing in, the SSTET team. I don't know. There's got to be ways to test this in the self-managed thing before.
Yeah, I mean, if you've even got like a local virtual environment, you can use that for testing. I mean, it would require some work to set up, but if someone has the time or wants to spend the time, like you can always go into AWS and just deploy GitLab on your own there, which would be a self-managed instance, so just be running in AWS. So I don't think that we're like technically blocked. It's just a matter of time and resources, and someone's going to have to set up a self-managed instance. I mean, the instances that the developers run locally, those effectively are self-managed instances. If they're running them locally, they would just need to make sure to use the latest code instead of like a developer branch that we're actually testing what the customer is going to get. So I think we've got a few different routes to potentially get to something that we could test, or maybe the SDET team has something already that we can just use.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, locally works, and Zamir gave us that wonderful walkthrough last meeting. So if it's working there, then it's good to go.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time today, and we'll meet again next week.
All right, great walkthrough.
Thanks.
All right, see ya.